Okay, welcome to SQLite tutorial number 4. We're going to see things come together here, and it'll really be nice. I think you'll like it. In our last tutorial, we created our classes to pull the data out of SQLite. We created the arrays in our appdelegate right here to be filled. So we pull the information from SQLite, we fill our arrays, and then we are able to access the information in these arrays from our two table view classes. So we're going to come down to the right here, and you have to import my web table view app delegate. We need that because we need to, in order to get the information in the arrays that was from SQLite, we need to access the app delegate. Okay. So we then come back here and we create the class my web table view app delegate. Okay. Alright. And we do this because we need an instance of this. We're doing this so that we can declare an instance here and access it here. Why didn't we just, let me say that, why didn't we just access it from here? Because it's easier to declare an instance of it here and have it accessible throughout our application. Okay. After on the viewDidLoad method, after the super, we load everything above it. We're going to then take that, access it, right? And right, you've seen this before. This fires up the pipeline. You remember this. We're going to fire our pipeline up. Once we do this, any data from the app delegate can be accessed. The instance of the app delegate can be accessed. We're going to also put something in here right now, and that is whoops, I'm sorry. A little too fast there. We're going to type in a string. When we do that, we are going to have the @ sign, and oh, I'm sorry, I have it the wrong place. There we go. So we're gonna have a title for this for our table view, and it's basically self-title. Now, since this is the root view, we will put self-title in here. If you recalled, back when we did the dwarfs table, the table view that we did, when we pushed a view, we could declare this title before and change it based upon what dwarf was selected. Like we had Grumpy's or Happy's items or Grumpy's items, but because this is a root view here, there's no real way to do that. That root title is going to be defined by self-title. Alright, so right now we're just going to run this. I want to run it to see that we at least are at a point where the title should come up, and it should. Give it a chance. There it is, my websites. Alright. Okay, so what next? Well, we need to get the information. We now have the app delegate accessible to us. We need to get the information into our table view. Now, we only have one section here. We don't have a sectioned table view. Many tutorials down the road I'll show you a sectioned table view, but for now we need to know the number of rows. Remember how we did that with the dwarfs? We did a count, right? We did a count of the array. That would give us the number of dwarfs, or a number of items in the array, and thus the number of rows. Well, this one's not much different. We access the app delegate, which we need, and we access the sites array. Now, we could have accessed the URL array if we chose. I told you before in the last tutorial, didn't matter which one, they both have the same size. For each site you have a URL. Well, I prefer to stay at the utmost root, and that would be the site array, so we're going to pull that one out, and then we're going to have this count on here as well, the count method, and that's going to give us, so we're going to return, if we have 1 or 10 or 20 or 100, it's going to return the number of items in that array. Okay, next item, we simply have to fill the cells in our table view. If you remember that one, now we look here, we declare this cell is the UI table view cell. That is the cell variable. We access everything through the cell. This DQ reusable means that if we're off screen, it'll take those cells and put them back into memory, flush them until they come on screen, and then we use them. It saves memory. And of course, this one here is very important. We allocate, we initialize with style, and our style is our default. Keep an eye on that. We're going to come back to that in a second. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to use the cell variable. We access that. If we hit the T here for text, we see it's lined out. It's no longer accessible in this version of Xcode. What we do need to go to is the text label. What they've done here is they said, look, these variables, or these properties, I should say, not variables, the P is for property that you see there, these properties have been changed such that we access the text label first and then the text. And we set that equal to what? None other than, you guessed it, appdelegate sites array, and we use the object at index. We look at the object at the particular index we are at. We did this before in a previous tutorial. It's nothing different than you've seen up to this point. If you look back at our dwarfs tutorial, it's the same thing. It's how you do it. And now we have to find what index is the integer at. Well, we're going to make life, we could make it easy. We could declare it here if we wanted to. So we're going to do it here. I'm going to write ns integer right now equals, and I'm going to name the integer. I'm going to call it location of the object, and equals index path, right, dot row. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to declare one line of code here. I would have to use this actually right here. The index path row goes here. I want to use one word. I'm going to declare LOC, type LOC. So what happens is, by adding a line of code here, what I do is I minimize my typing afterwards by saying, okay, I just need the one variable here instead of the whole index path row. I'm going to close it in braces, and we're going to hit it here like so. And okay, and we're going to save that by Control S, and let's run it and see where we stand. If we're good, yep, didn't show up. Okay, and let's find out why. Didn't show up because we didn't do one other thing. Why? Well, I wanted to show you this so that you understood it. We set everything equal to the cell text here to this. We're going to put the sites in the cell, right? And we access the app delegate right from here. But we didn't do one thing. We didn't fill the array. This is kind of something that you don't think about. You said, well, wait a minute. This here extracts data, fills the arrays, and then this accesses the arrays. But in order to fill the arrays, we have to run another line of code, and in order to do that, we have to import. And if I'm going again too fast, email me if you think I am. We have to import the WebData class because we have to run the method we created that will populate all of our arrays. So we then type in WebData, and actually I'm going to call a method, so I need to put it in braces, WebData, and get initial data to display. Remember the method we created with our SQL? Well, since we didn't call it before, we never filled the arrays. And when we ran our program, our application I should say, nothing was there. Well, it wouldn't be there. Now this end string here, by the way, is the database path. Remember here, we specified it here in our appdelegate. There's a reason for it. It allows us to access, I'm going to just come back here again to that method, the actual method of it, to show it to you. Right? We specify this get database path here so we can access it from any class using the appdelegate. So we type in, first application delegate, and this is going to be in braces too because we're going to call a method from it, and it's a class method. Get database path. Close it off, everybody's happy, and save it. So what happened here? Now in the viewDidLoad method, be very careful here. The first thing we do is we get the initial data that we need to display. If that data changes during the program, think about this for a moment. If I add or delete something, and it happens within the application's runtime when it's running, the big question is, how do I refresh that data? Will I get the initial data to display again? The answer is no. What happens is, as I said before, I would wipe out the array, or all the arrays, and I would refill them. I know this may sound, again, to some coders, a lot, but it ensures you that you have the most current data in the array. So what I would do is, and the view will appear, the view will appear. What I would do is, under here, I would type in code to remove all objects from the array, and then I would again run the get initial data to display method. So I would wipe out the arrays and repopulate the arrays in the table view when it appears. Now in terms of time loading, it's fast, very fast, but what happens is it allows you to update the table view each time a change is made. So without going too fast now, we added this line of code which now allows us to fill the arrays. It basically says, hey, run the method, fill the arrays, now I can access the arrays. Without this method, this step here doesn't happen. With this method, I go from here, fill the arrays, now I can go from here, I can access them. Now if I run it, it better be there. I better see a website. And there it is, Google. My website. That's the only website we typed in. Alright, now, okay, interesting, you say. What if we wanted to see the URL? Where would we put it? I mean, what would we do? Could we? And the thing is, the URL should be. It should be in a location that we can see it. I'm going to backspace here. Remember, I said this default UI table view style default. That's the default. Basically, what you see is one line per cell. If I want a subtitle, if I want an extra line below it, I could use this one. The other two, value 1, value 2, you can experiment with them if you choose. They look very odd. Value 2, if I recall, has the text on one side and a detail on the other side. I think it's text on the right, detail on the left. And then value 1 is a different type of version of the subtitle. But we're going to use the subtitle here. We're going to save it. And below this here, we're going to type in cell, detail, text label. If you don't have subtitle in there, this detail text label I don't believe is accessible. But in any event, you can try that and confirm it on your own. If I'm not mistaken, it isn't. And it's the same thing, object at index, right? It's the same line. But what's the difference in the lines? We're going to look at the code we just entered. And, oops, I'm sorry, we have I'm sorry, and this has to be text. Text, right. So here we are looking at the detail text label, text. We couldn't, the error we were getting here was we were setting text equal to a label. Can't do that. We need to be the text. So that's how it should look. Now, for the actual cell text, we put in the site name. For the detail text, we access the URL name. Now, if we run this, we're going to do that right now. This is going to be very interesting. Watch this. Google, right? And www.google.com underneath it. Really nice, really polished. Okay. Also, just to tell you too, remember, we're going to add them. Actually, I'm going to show you something first. I'm going to go into Firefox here. It's going to be over at, oops, sorry, I'm on my Facebook here. I'm going to go to my tools and SQLite Manager and load up what we have here, right? And what I'm going to do here in my websites table, I'm going to add one. I'm going to type in, I don't know, AOL. I'm sorry, let me add it again. This is the primary key is not typed in. That's an auto increment. AOL is my website, let's say, and my URL should be www.aol.com. There you go. Okay, we're going to add that. Okay. Alright, so we've added a second website, right? I'm going to close this down for a moment. And by the way, that, let's go back to it again here. I'm at my web, my Xcode, alright, site there too, the YouTube site. And by the way, this SQLite database is in our project. It's basically what our resource is, the resource we added. So just by changing it, right, I should be able to run this and see it, right? Would you agree with that? Let's run it here. Whoops, select it. But we don't see it. Remember I told you, or I discussed this a while back, I'm going to delete the app from here and then close our simulator. Remember I said early on, the first thing I said to you is you could change this database, you could update it, you can add stuff to it. But if you didn't delete the app from it, you didn't see a change. In other words, once it was copied to the iPhone, the iPod, the database can't be modified on the iPhone, iPod, or on even our simulator. So you have to delete it from the iPhone, iPod, or the simulator so you can update it. Now if we run it, it's going to copy it now to the iPhone simulator, and the changes we've added are now there, right? Well, now you look at it and you say, well, wait a minute, Art. Why are they not in order? Didn't you forget something? The answer to that's correct. Yes, we did. And the question is, now, the will appear method is every time it appears when you push different views and come away from those views. The viewDidLoad method, okay, is the initial loading of it. Got to be very careful here. Initially, when you load it, they should be sorted. So sites array, right? And sort using selector. Remember this one? That's selector. And case insensitive compare. You remember this. Okay, we should be good, right? It's the same thing we did before. We sort using selector. Our select is case insensitive compare, meaning don't worry about the case of the letters, sort them. And if we run that now, what happens is it should put AOL before Google, and it does. Warning though, again, if I were to add, I'm going to drag this over. This is only happening when you load it. And it will happen in our next tutorial when we add a site, which we will do. When you do that and you add a site, it'll put it at the bottom unless you run that sort right here, and the view will appear. Okay. One last thing before we close out this session, and then in SQLite 5, what we'll do is we will. I think what we'll do is before we add additional sites here, what I'd like to do is run the did select so you can actually push and view the the website. That's nothing more than what we did in the previous app for the websites. But I want to do something here and show you something. Why you have a sort of beauty, if you will, with SQLite. Say, for example, I'm going to create an NS string here, and I'm going to call it. Sorry, I got to put the asterisk there. Detailed text, and I'm going to set it equal to. I have to have something in there. We can't simply create an instance, and there we go. And then I'm going to say detail text equals and detail text string by appending. I'm going to call that method. And I'm going to then have, I'll explain this in a second, but you've seen it before if you've been following my tutorials. I'm going to copy something right now over here, put it in here, alright, close it again, and whoops, I'm sorry, I went out of order there. Okay. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. That's what I want. And gotta make sure we have. Oh, I got two of them in here. Oh, I see why. There's two of them over here. This is fine here. Got to get my braces right here, and this one is not. Oh, that should do it. There we go. Okay. We need a brace here because we're calling a method for the app, the URL array. All right. And here we have braces. So let's look at this code, and then I'm going to just add one more piece of code here, and we'll put it all together and explain it so you understand it. Same thing. It's actually the same line of code format, and then this is going to be. And if you look at this, you may say, I think I understand what he's doing. And then we're going to just take this out of here and put. Alright. Alright, so what's going on here? What is going on? Alright. We declare a string called detail text, or det text. We set it equal to an opening parenthesis. We then take that same string, we append it with the URL, and then we take that new array, which is now string, which is now a parenthesis and a URL. We append to that a closing parenthesis and run it. And look what happens. So why, and there you got them, the parentheses are right there. Why is this, why did I say there's a beauty to this? Because we didn't do anything to this. We can still access it, which we need to when we need to access that array, that string, when we go to open up the web page. So you can take this information in the app delegate that's stored, run some modifications on them, and get it the way you want. Now we could also change fonts on here if we chose. We could make this blue. We could make let's do that over here. For example, we could say cell, right, text label dot text color equals UI. Oops, I'm sorry. UI, I believe it's color. You got to make a color COL. Whoops. I think we need a brace. That's what we need. UI color. There we go. We got to have a brace, or we're calling a method. And let's say blue color, right? You saw this before as well in the our dwarfs, and with that, now we're going to get blue on those. Similarly, if we want to, we can access cell, right? Detail text label dot text color equals UI color. I don't know. Well, actually, hold on a minute. See if we can. Text dot. All right, text color equals UI color. Is it? No, not text color. Let's go to font. We'll leave the color the way it is. UI font bold, system font, CG float. I don't know the size of it. I think it's about 10 right now. We'll leave it at that and see what it does. Detail, we could do that as well. And oops, a little small there. Sorry about that. Bolding doesn't seem to help a whole lot with it, but let's bring it up to, I don't know, 14. And if you could access any font you wanted, and we did this, of course, with and there it is there. The other thing we could do, if we want as well, cell dot detail text label dot font equals UI font italic system font 14. Actually, you're going to get it'll override. If I'm not mistaken, it's going to override. I'm going to just take this line and code it out so it doesn't run. What happens is when you go to a font, even the bold, unless you have bold and italics, it will not. It'll override it. And we explained this last time. Unless you have both bold and italic in here, if you put bold here, the bold goes away and italic will override it. So I think what I want to do here is let's change the color of it as well. It might just be nice to have the color changed because that gray, while it is nice, text color equals UI color, and I don't know, let's see, black color. It might just be what will give us the crisp color of what we need to see. And there you have it. It's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty good. And it'll give you, as you see here, italics and the color black. And here we have blue. And that's it for our tutorial number 4, if I'm correct with the numbering. When we come back for tutorial number 5, what I'd like to do again is, I think, put the code in to launch the web viewer, and then start adding the lines is actually easier. You're going to find it's easier than the getting information, doing an initial. Adding is using an insert statement, and we'll see that in the next tutorial. So I hope you like this one, and when we come back in our next tutorial, at a bare minimum, we're going to have our websites load up as we select, and we'll push the view to load it, and then start with what do we do to add our websites to this. And it's no different than what we did with adding dwarfs. So I'll see you then.